Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third episode of X's and O's of the 2019 fall semester. I'm Joe Thompson, along with Isaac Deniston. We had a little bit of an issue with conflict of schedules last week. That's why we didn't have a show last week. But we're back now. Hopefully, we're going to be doing these shows on a regular weekly basis.
We don't usually plan on having these things, 2 weeks apart, so we apologize.
Sorry about that, but we'll be back on a weekly basis, hopefully, for the rest of the semester. Later on the show, we're going to be reintroducing a one-time segment that we had last semester called What Did We Say?, where we're going to look back at some things that either Isaac or I said and see how things played out. And we'll go continue our coverage on the MLB postseason. But first, NDSU football had its homecoming game last week.
Yes.
Isaac, take me through it.
So I think both of us would have thought that if you saw the final score, at least for the game, you probably didn't expect that coming in. Yes, at least given the history of Northern Iowa and North Dakota State. Those games, these matchups are usually really close. And Saturday just wasn't, in any way after the first half. At least. Give Northern Iowa credit. They, did hang around. There was only a 4-point game at halftime. But, man, the running game of the Bison versus the run defense of Northern Iowa was supposed to be the big thing in this game. Northern Iowa was a pretty good front four.
Yeah.
That was at least what was being said about Northern Iowa, and the fact they also had a really fast quarterback, which we did see quite a bit of. But the running game did not step up, or at least the run defense did not step up for Northern Iowa. They got pounded. It was like 350 yards rushing for NDSU by the time the game was over. And the Bison, looking at my stats here right in front of me, they had four 50-yard rushers. That is an unbelievable.
That is pretty great.
That's an unbelievable thing to have for you. That stability, being able to run the ball and control the line of scrimmage against a formidable defensive front. Good on NDSU for at least getting that established early and often. Kobe Johnson had 10 yards of carry. That helped though with that touchdown he had in garbage time with Zeb Nolan taking the snaps. But Adam Cofield looked pretty good as well. Trey Lance getting those quarterback runs up the middle on zone reads. So it was just a really good day for the offense. The defense, though, got kick-started. They at least kick-started the second half. Did you see that big Josh Hayes hit to start the second half?
Yeah.
That was the immediate tone setter for the second half. The game completely shifted. The Bison scored a touchdown a few plays later. Josh Hayes, that big hit, really set the tone for the rest of the game. So he also got named player of the game as well for that inside the Fargo Dome. So, really it just turned into another one of those boring type games, really, and it wasn't supposed to be that way. We didn't cover this last week, but the previous week, NDSU also beat a top 10 team 37-3. It's not supposed to be this easy to beat fellow teams in the top 10, but yet NDSU is still doing it.
It's just it kind of goes back to a point I made in our very first episode where I said, even though there are the top 10 teams in the FCS are really good, a lot of them, even though they may match up well, going to the Fargo Dome or just playing the Bison in general is a really tall order, and they are the most intimidating team in all the FCS. There's really only a couple teams that can truly, truly compete with NDSU.
Even on a day where it was snowing outside and it was hard for people to even get here for the game, it was still a pretty electric environment for the most part.
Yeah, it was still relatively full. There were some spotty spots, but...
Spotty spots, I like
spotty
that.
Spotty spots.
But it wasn't a complete sellout.
No, but there's still quite a few people there.
Right, and the fans brought the intensity all afternoon long, and so good on you guys for showing up. Good on you, Bison Nation, for showing up. But 46-14, not the original plan, at least most had in mind for this game. But 6-0 halfway through the season, NDSU will happily take that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. When I walked into that game, I was there with some friends, and I was going in with the same mindset you had. I was like, okay, Northern Iowa is very good. They match up well with the Bison. I think it'll work out really, really well for them, and it should be a close game, and it should be a fun, entertaining game. It was for the first half. It was 18-14 at halftime, and then whatever
the second half was.
Yeah,
right.
It was just they just shut them down for the rest of the game, and it was really impressive to see. And Bison still remain undefeated.
McElwain, their quarterback, though, for UNI, looks to be really, really good, though. He's very elusive and should give Valley defenses troubles the rest of the season, I think.
But NDSU still hasn't lost a game since 2017.
And that was to those pesky Jackrabbits who the Bison get to play in a couple weeks. So that's
in Brookings, which is the last place they lost at.
Exactly. So that should be be something to think about and a lot of fun to watch potentially.
Yeah. But we're going to go ahead and move right along into recapping the NFL almost entirely Week 6. Obviously, the Monday night game. We record this show before the Monday night game. But Week 6, Eagles-Vikings. Talk about the teams that are most relevant to our area. The Vikings are the closest NFL team, and obviously the Eagles have Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Overall,
this was a big media, at least you know, it was like a big thing for the local media here.
Yeah.
I didn't watch anything from local media here, but I'm pretty sure the lead up to this Vikings-Eagles game was something else for all the people that have to do research and journalism in sports here.
Yeah, but going into the game itself, for the most part, it was almost entirely Vikings for the whole game. There was a point where Eagles made a comeback, cut it to with less than a touchdown lead for the Vikings, but then Vikings ultimately took over. Kirk Cousins, in spite of a completely depleted Eagles secondary, he played extremely well. 333 yards, 4 touchdown passes. He had 1 pick, but I don't believe that one was really his fault.
No, and it was also relatively inconsequential as well. It was before the half. It was Stephon Diggs at the sideline. He should have had the catch, but it bounced up off his hands and went right into Andrew Sendejo's hands.
Which is just unfortunate.
Which led to the hilarious fake field goal attempt that the Eagles tried to run at the end of the first half. They were lined up to get points before the half. Your facial expressions are telling me that you didn't see this.
I was at work. I did not see this. I was not able to watch the game.
But I
saw the highlights of it.
So they were getting ready to score at the end of the half. Jake Elliott gets a direct snap. They try to throw it into sextuple coverage. It didn't work. So that's what happened after that pick. So
that just goes to a point where when you have an aggressive coach such as Doug Peterson, you live and die by his aggressiveness. Obviously, go back to the Philly special in Super Bowl 52, paid off tremendously and was one of the most iconic moments in recent sports history. And then you get this. I believe he said he was trying to get a pass to the sideline, and try and score a touchdown rather than a field goal. Which I get he's an aggressive coach and that's in his nature, but logically that just doesn't make any sense. Just take the points
before the half. Take what you can get.
Cut into that lead a little bit.
You get the ball.
There's nothing wrong with the field goal
too. So that was.
And imagine the fantasy owners had Jake Elliott. All of a sudden he has an interception to his resume.
What?
That never happens.
Why does my kicker have an interception? What happened?
that was what I saw all over Twitter when that happened. It was like, why does my Eagles kicker suddenly have a pick? But moving into the rest of the NFL, I think we're going to start off with the Cleveland Browns because they are continuing to struggle a little bit. Baker's still kind of struggling a little bit. There's Freddie Kitchens, not the greatest head coach so far. What are your opinions on the Browns after seeing this game?
I think actually in an episode that we didn't release because of audio issues, we had talked about the Browns facing off against LA on that Sunday night game, and we had actually a pretty good discussion that I'm a little disappointed never made it to air about Baker Mayfield's confidence or lack thereof. And now I just wonder what it's like now at this point, given that the Browns are kind of in this spiral, they just cannot stay consistent week in and week out, and they cannot, play full 4-quarter games, it looks like at this point in the season.
It's just like a combination of things. Obviously, Baker is just – things are weird with Baker right now. He's not to say take a step back. He's just kind of maybe a sophomore slump kind of deal.
He's already got 11 interceptions.
That's bad.
Through 6 games.
No, to be blunt, that's bad.
That's not.
And it's not entirely his fault. Freddie Kitchens' play calling has not been great, but it's just kind of disappointing because they have the talent to be really good, minimum playoff contender. But it's just really disappointing so far.
I just remember seeing, all the hype they got. It was deserved. But then at the same time, to
gotta
really
actually play the
truly
games.
be, well, that too, but also to really truly be in firm contention to be one of the best in your conference, you need depth.
Yeah.
I don't think the Browns have as much depth at certain positions that they need. They got rid of offensive linemen when they were trying to get Olivier Vernon, and I think they also sorely miss at least having more of a rotation at running back. They don't have Duke Johnson anymore, so really it's more Nick Chubb in the backfield right now.
Because Kareem Hunt's still suspended, right?
He's still suspended at the moment, but I wonder if that's even going to cut into Nick Chubb's carries. He's looking really good right now.
Nick Chubb has been one of the few bright spots in Cleveland Town right now, and
Cleveland Town.
Yeah. I'm full of just fun little inserts.
Going down to Cleveland Town, everyone.
Spotty Spots, Cleveland Town. I'm on it today.
That's right.
I've even seen rumors. Although it's from Colin Cowherd, and we have differing opinions on Colin Cowherd, that if the Browns continue their struggle, they might look to trade OBJ.
Which is weird,
but
I don't know about that. But
that's why it's just rumors. But it has been a point of discussion, because you never know. It's hard to keep star wide receivers happy, to some extent.
They also,
they have a certain level of arrogance about them, but
every
it's tough
case
to keep
is different, but
it's tough to keep star players happy sometimes.
It would also be a poor decision, I think, in my opinion.
I agree.
Trade someone that you just traded for, and you just inherited their massive contract.
But let's go ahead and move on to some other games.
Yeah, Houston, Kansas City. I wanted to at least talk about that a little bit. That was interesting. Two quarterbacks that were selected in 2017 finally got to play each other.
The two quarterbacks that the Bears could have drafted over Mitchell Trubisky. Had a little dig in there, but
nice.
It's fine.
Nice.
Anyway, continue.
But that was interesting because the Chiefs looked really on top of their game early on, and then Deshaun Watson just keeps getting these, short little dump offs, to his tight ends and his wide receivers. He just keeps letting those work. And so good on the Texans for making the Chiefs lose 2 straight home games. I'm really interested to see how the AFC South race shapes up with Indianapolis being what they are and now Houston being what they are, winning against Kansas City. That can only help you at the end of the season. And also, real quick, I wanted to talk about Dallas versus the New York Jets yesterday.
Oh, boy.
That is going to sting for the Cowboys.
That's a tough look for the Cowboys.
That is going to sting. Sam Darnold finally back for the Jets. He had missed the first 4 games of the year because he had mono, which is really embarrassing.
That is, but it's typical Jets. But continue.
But anyway, I really liked what I saw, though, from the Jets' offense. In particular, they have a really underrated set of playmakers on offense. They got Le'Veon Bell in the offseason. He ran really hard yesterday against Dallas. They have Demaryius Thomas now at wide receiver to complement their deep threat, Robbie Anderson. And Sam Darnold he has a ton of talent. It's just he didn't have the supporting cast around him last year, whether it was the offensive line or skill positions, to really have a good rookie season, to at least have a good rookie season. So I wonder now how New York is going to do the rest of the year and whether they can potentially be a spoiler for certain playoff teams down the road. But, Dallas, this is a huge and really, really bad loss for them. They're now
on Jerry Jones' birthday, nonetheless.
Oh, that sucks. That's really bad. But
just a little tidbit again.
They're now tied with Philadelphia at 3-3 in the NFC East for first place. They had won their first 3 against relatively weak opponents, and now that they've faced teams like Green Bay and I guess now the Jets that they've had difficulties with, now I just don't know what their trajectory is going to be like. Probably still playoffs, at least, is a good ceiling for them. I just don't really think anyone should be trusting Dak Prescott to be the savior for them in any situation.
I've honestly never trusted Dak Prescott as a quarterback. He had that good rookie season, but he hasn't really impressed me since then. I don't think he's worth the $40 million that he wants.
Which is, I think, still pretty ludicrous.
I agree.
But anyway, that's a bad loss. And real quick to wrap up, we had our first quote-unquote tank bowl yesterday. The Washington Redskins won.
I've come up with
over
multiple
the Miami
different names
Dolphins.
for that. Obviously, tank bowl, toilet bowl, Tua bowl. I've heard thrown around. Redskins, Dolphins. It was such
and
an
it
ugly
ended
game.
in fitting fashion. Feel free to look that up for yourself. When we come back, we'll take this to commercial right now. We'll be debuting for the first time this season. What did we say?
The TLMC offers a variety of services for NDSU students and instructors. Class project support is one of the key ways in which the TLMC serves faculty. Technology-intensive projects can provide students with an opportunity for creative expression, enhanced communication, and the development of digital media literacy skills that will benefit them in class, college, and beyond. We realize that there are obstacles and challenges to assigning technology-rich projects, and the TLMC is here to help by serving as a bridge between instructors, students, and the technology. We can help with project planning, identifying student learning and support needs, and developing, coordinating, and delivering project-specific support. Our services include hands-on workshops for your students, scheduled during or outside of class time. Individual and group assistance is always available for students on a walk-in basis at the TLMC lab. With access to a variety of multimedia software and hardware, students can store and work on their audio-video projects over time. Workstations may be reserved or used on a walk-in basis. Other learning resources include project-specific learning links on the TLMC website, our learning resource library, and a lynda.com learning kiosk. The TLMC Media Studio features space and equipment for video recording, studio photography, audio recording, and screen capture. Students, faculty, and staff can make appointments to use the studio and to get help in producing, editing, and publishing their media works. Additional studio resources are also available at Berry Hall. Please contact us if you would like to take a tour of our facilities or visit with us about a project that you have in mind.
Welcome back to X's and O's, and this is the part of the show where we debut What Did We Say, and the accompanying graphics should show that. This is kind of what we did this in a little bit of time, so this was the best idea that we had in that short period of time. But the premise of
gotta get what you get.
Right. So the premise of this segment, we go back and look at some of our old takes, old things that we said, and we just kind of show them to you and break them down a little bit and see if we were right or wrong in any way. So we are going to be running through 2 takes today, and both of these are baseball related, which will perfectly segue into the second half of this second segment of this show. We'll be first talking about my buddy here, Joe, nailing the Los Angeles Dodgers bullpen situation against the Washington Nationals in the NLDS.
The bullpen is not as good as it has been in the past, but it's still relatively good. Kenley Jansen's still an elite closer, but I do not trust them at all. I have a really good feeling that they've been to the last 2 World Series and they lost both times. 7 games in the Astros in 2017, 5 games to the Red Sox last year. I don't.
Are they due for further regression?
I think they're due for even further regression. Okay. I think in terms of NHL teams, they're going to pull the Tampa Bay Lightning this postseason.
So that was what happened eventually, at least. We didn't know who the Dodgers were going to play, but congratulations. You did predict that they were going to lose in the NLDS.
Honestly, I was kind of saying that since they clinched the NL West, excuse me. Like, they were the first team to clinch their division out of any MLB team. And
the
I was
NL
just
West was not very good this year.
It was not, but I just had this weird feeling about it. Honestly, I was like, they've been to the last 2 World Series, lost both of them. They have playoff Kershaw in the rotation. Their bullpen is a little bit sketchy. It's still loads of talent, but there's just something. It's just
something was off.
Something was off.
I don't know. I didn't have that same feeling, I guess. I don't know. I've kind of felt that they were at least good for an NLCS trip. You know, and maybe they lose there or something like that, or they just lose in the World Series. I couldn't trust them either
to be fair,
to win it all.
They did run into a pretty white-hot Washington Nationals team coming off that insane NL wildcard game over the Brewers with that crazy Juan Soto single that turned into a double based off a very untimely error.
That Grisham error in right field. It was actually credited.
Billy Buckner.
It was credited as a 3-run single because he went to second on the error,
and then was tagged out, but the runs had already scored.
Yeah,
but
he was actually tagged out between. But anyway.
But it doesn't matter.
Good on though the Washington Nationals. They've moved on, and now as we record this, they're currently up 2-0 in the NLCS on the St. Louis Cardinals, and they've
turned
about
in momentum.
Incredible pitching performances in both of those games for Anibal Sanchez and Max Scherzer. Now game 3
and then the Cardinals get Steven Strasburg and then Patrick Corbin game 4. That's rough. That's rough for the Cardinals.
Ouch. So
let's go ahead and continue with our what did we say. I had another prediction at the end of our last show where just for fun, I gave out a World Series prediction. Here it is. Braves Astros.
Okay.
And then Astros winning in 6.
I can kind of see that.
I'm just throwing it out there. There's no real reason behind it. I just, for the sake of having a prediction, I don't care if I'm wrong or not. It would be cool if I'm right.
I don't even care if I'm wrong, but I just don't want to make one.
It'll be cool if I'm right, but overall,
So I may have wussed out on that one, so I guess I can't take any potential backlash, but technically you kind of can.
I mean, like I said in that soundbite, I did that just off a whim, just for the sake of giving a World Series prediction. I did think that the Braves had a legitimate shot at making the World Series. It was just a matter of who they would play in the NLCS. But nobody was expecting
one could have foreseen Game 5.
What happened Game 5.
That the 10-run first inning.
Keep in mind, we're both Twins fans. We're obviously disappointed that we got swept by the Yankees. But I would much rather get swept than be embarrassed in the first inning of a Game 5 win-or-go-home game.
I think most can agree with that.
Most can agree with that.
Yeah,
but it was just a tough scene and just another painful moment in the history of Atlanta sports.
And no one cares about the MLS. Even their soccer team won recently, but
nobody there are people in America who care about the MLS, but
it's not high. The number isn't.
It's the casual fans do not care.
But so Atlanta, at least if you're not a soccer fan,
it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate. That 10th run was probably the saddest way it could have happened. It was on a strikeout. Runner was on third with 2 outs. It was a pitch in the dirt. They just had to throw to first to get Marcell Ozuna out.
And Marcell Ozuna was walking away, and he had to sprint backwards. And then Brian McCann, as he was getting the ball, slipped, fell on his butt, and as he was falling, threw to first base, and it was a wild throw. And did Marcell Ozuna go to second on that play? He stayed at first.
But anyway, that happened, and so Atlanta, sorry, your baseball team didn't play well. I thought the Cardinals were going to at least be very competitive in that series. I like their roster as well. So good on them for advancing. Now they have to dig themselves out of a hole as they're down 0-2 against Washington. Yeah. So now we've gone over what happened in this What Did We Say? So now let's transition back to more general talk about the championship series. We've talked a lot about the NLCS. Let's switch gears then real quick to the ALCS. Game 2 of the Astros versus Yankees series was last night.
Yep.
Through that second game, both teams have won once. Masahiro Tanaka was really, really good in Game 1 for the Yankees. And the Astros won last night on a walk-off home run in the 11th inning by Carlos Correa.
You just love to see. Every time the Yankees lose, it's great, but when it's on a walk-off in extra innings, it's just pure love. It's just great.
So the top 2 seeds in the American League advance to the World Series. Or not to the World Series, to the American League Championship Series. So that was probably the anticipation. Maybe not exactly the Yankees, but I think the original consensus among baseball people was it's going to be in the ALCS, the Astros, and whoever wins the AL East. The prevailing thought back in March was Boston. Obviously, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
So at least most people are getting the ALCS they wanted. This was the ALCS 2 years ago, actually.
Yeah. And 2 years before that, the Astros and Yankees played in the AL wildcard game, and the Astros went into Yankee Stadium and shut out the Yankees, I believe, if I remember correctly.
With Dallas Keuchel.
With Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah.
AL Cy Young winner, Dallas Keuchel, as it turned out to be at the end of the year. But overall, I think this is going to be a really competitive series, as it has shown to be so far. Now they're going back to New York. So the Yankee fans, they're going to be raucous, they're going to be loud. But at the same time, the Yankees are going up against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole has been dominant all year in regular season and in the playoffs. He's been virtually unhittable. So it's going to be really tough. Even with all the talent of the Yankees offense, it's going to be real tough.
So far this postseason, if I remember correctly, he has about 25 strikouts.
Yeah, which is...
That's problematic.
His two-seam fastball has been virtually unhittable. It's then it's just been insane the way Garrett Cole has pitched. He's going to be a hot commodity at the end of the season, whether he chooses to become a free agent or re-signs with the Astros.
Yeah, I wonder about that whole situation.
He's going to get a lot of money.
He's going to get paid, and I wonder how much the Astros want to pay him, considering all the other people that they maybe haven't extended long-term that they would want to, Yeah, I just wonder how that's all going to work out. As for the rest of this series, I do like the Astros to win this series. Yeah. I think their pitching is going to be the biggest reason.
Yeah.
I'm going to not shy away from a take this week. I'm going to say they win this series in 6.
Ooh.
6. Not 5, nor 7. 6. What do you think?
I'd say I agree with you that the Astros will win the championship series overall. I say maybe the Yankees push it to 7. But I think overall the Astros pull it out and make their second World Series in 3 years.
And for the sake of making a prediction on the other side, currently the Nationals do lead 2-0 on St. Louis. Is it going to be a sweep? Is it going to be a Cardinals comeback? What's going to happen the rest of the way here now that the series shifts back to the nation's capital?
I don't think the Cardinals will get swept. I do think the Nationals are riding off so much momentum right now based on the wins that they've had in the wild card game and in the division series, in the way that those played out. I think with their pitching rotation, their bullpen is obviously still suspect, but if their pitchers continue the way that the Anibal Sanchez and Max Scherzer pitched, it's going to be a tough series for the Cardinals, but I think the Nationals pull it out in 5 or 6 games.
Interesting. I do also, though, want to point out, while we still have some time, this is a really, really good story. We didn't cover this too much. I did, though, cover this in a sportscast I did during the last one, when the Dodgers lost to this Nationals team. The Nationals were 19-31 in May.
That's true.
Let's put things into perspective here.
And they just lost their face of the franchise,
right.
Bryce Harper.
They just let Bryce Harper walk in free agency. They still did make other moves that helped bolster their roster, but they didn't have that guy that they drafted number 1 all those years ago. And now they were in this spiral. They had lost him. They were 12 games below 500. Now they go on this ridiculous streak.
Yeah.
And just to make the playoffs, they win in a really great wild card game, and then they even come back and win that NLDS after being down as well. So this Nationals team, and they had also, in the franchise's entire history, dating back to the Montreal Expos, they had not won a legitimate playoff series in its entire history. The Nationals, or the Expos rather, had won a series in 1981. That was only because they won the NL East in the second half of a strike-shortened season.
Yeah.
So good on the Nationals for at least getting here and actually winning a legitimate series. I kind of agree, although I do really like Paul Goldschmidt in the lineup of this Cardinals team. And Jack Flaherty as well is a really good pitcher. He should come back and be a factor in that series. Harrison Bader, really important piece as well in that Cardinals offense. I think they win a couple games. 6 games is probably going to be the prediction here for this series. I do really like what the Washington Nationals are doing. They should, I hope, be new blood in the World Series. That would be tremendous. Houston, the overwhelming favorite at the start of the year versus an underdog Nationals team. That would be tremendous content.
That would be tremendous contest. And I just have to say this one thing. If the Nationals do make the World Series, how's Bryce Harper going to feel when he's sitting on his couch with his wife and his kid?
Ouch.
He just signed that big old contract with the Phillies, and he couldn't even make the playoffs with them.
At least he's going to make $300 million by the time that contract expires.
Yeah.
So he's got
that
all
going
that money to go to sleep on at night.
He's got fingerless. He's got no rings on his fingers so
Fingerless
far.
rings.
Fingerless rings, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
It's all good.
And on that note, we bid you adieu. That is episode 3 of X's and O's Fall 2019. For Joe Thompson, I'm Isaac Dienison. We will see you hopefully next week.